So I just finished reading through Ephesians, and I want to bring your attention to Ephesians 6, when Paul is urging you to put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against authorities, against the cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand the devil day, and having done all, to stand firm. So, this is the English Standard Version, just for some context. But, I read that and it really stuck out to me because the whole armor of God, he really emphasizes that, the whole armor, right? He says it twice right there. And then he breaks down every component of what that armor looks like. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes for your feet, the gospel of peace, right? The helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. He breaks down every single piece of what this armor looks like and how exactly it should be manifest in how it, really should be worn as a follower. Earlier in Ephesians, right, in Ephesians 4:1, he defines himself as a prisoner of the Lord, and he urges the reader to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which they've been called. So, right, he starts out by describing this prisoner sort of imagery, right? You're bound as a prisoner of the Lord, and as a prisoner, you have to abide by the rules set by your Father, right? He's holding you as a prisoner. And so I guess, what does that mean to be a prisoner, right? That means to be committed to the Lord, committed to Christ, right? The second part of that, to be a prisoner, you must act in accordance with the law and commandments set by him. Now, the second part of that, right? How do you become worthy, and what path exactly are you walking on? Well, as God's chosen ones, we're walking on a path to really live in accordance with godliness. And how do we do that exactly? How do we stand firm and withstand against all these demonic forces which are trying to knock you off the path? Because the devil knows that as you get closer to God, as you become more righteous in your walk here on earth, and we will never be perfect. We will always sin. But knowing the power of Christ, knowing the salvation and the power of the salvation, we are able to revive ourselves. Because earlier in Ephesians, so I'm kind of working backwards, right? I'm talking about the armor that he talks about at the very end, but going back to Ephesians 2, he says that we are dead, right? We are dead spiritually and that goes back all the way to the original sin. We are dead spiritually because of the original sin of man. And the only way is to look beyond ourselves, and through the grace and salvation of the Lord by Christ and the sacrifice that he made on the cross. That is the only way we are able to be revived from our spiritual death and to be, forgiven for our sins. But while we're here on earth, and he even talks about, right, how short our time is here on earth, we have to take a conscious effort to withstand the devil in this spiritual combat that we find ourselves in. And so now I'm finally getting back to Ephesians 6, which is kind of what I started with. In combat, and I think this is really fascinating because, being in the military and looking at sort of what we do in training, right? We do things that are not in our best interest because it's convenient. In training, we will not wear our helmet. We will leave it unstrapped. We will not wear the elbow pads and knee pads. We might forego gloves. We might not wear our eye protection. We might not wear ear protection for our hearing. We will not wear the full kit with all the plates because it's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's a burden, it's hot, etc. It restricts our movement. We do this in training, and it creates a bad habit for when we're actually on the battlefield. And we built this habit of letting those bad habits slip. And I picture, so many comparisons that you could draw to this whole armor of God. And he really emphasizes that. Paul emphasizes the whole armor of God, every component. And that means that you can't just selectively pick and choose what you want, what's convenient, right? You can't just put on the helmet, but leave the belt, leave the breastplate. I don't need that, right? And I think for so long, I was a lukewarm Christian who would pick and choose the things that were easy and convenient, the things that I wanted to incorporate into my life. There's a lot of great things in the Bible, a lot of sage wisdom, right? I'd read Proverbs and be like, well, I like that. I would incorporate certain things into my life and then forget the other things, right? I would engage in sexual immorality. I would be, engaging in sin, willful sin. I knew it was wrong, but I would just do it because it made me feel good. Sins of the flesh. I let the flesh live on because I refuse to walk on that path that Paul's talking about and to really embody what it means to be a Christian and put on the whole armor of God. And when you don't put on the whole armor of God, you're leaving yourself exposed. In the same way that when we don't wear all the protective equipment, we're leaving ourselves at risk, right? When we're not wearing our ear protection, we may be able to hear better, but we're also putting ourselves at risk for hearing loss and deafness. We might be able to see better because our glasses aren't fogged up because we're not wearing them, but now we're putting our eyes at risk of, hot metal and brass from our weapon discharging into our eyes, right? We're exposing ourselves to risk. And just because we're exposed doesn't necessarily mean we'll fall victim to that, right? We can be tempted with lust and, our carnal earthly desires, and we can withhold, and we may be able to win temporarily against those lusts, right? But in the same way that, not wearing a helmet when you're in a vehicle or not wearing your plates when you're on a range, right? You're leaving yourself exposed to a potential catastrophe down the line. And you may get lucky for a while, but your luck might run out. Your luck will run out eventually, right? Given enough time and exposure. I'm not sure which verse it is exactly. It's in Proverbs, but it talks about, how can you walk across burning stones and not expect to be burned? It's the same thing, right? When you refuse to put on this whole armor of God because it's convenient, it's inconvenient to put on the whole armor, you're just asking for the devil to find a way to win, right? In this spiritual warfare, that is what you need to cling on to. This entire, outfit of equipment that you must wear. And I just found it really interesting because of the comparisons I saw with the military, right? And, if you're not in the military, you can draw context and correlation with other things in life. Where have you cut corners knowing that it's wrong, right? Knowing that it's wrong, but you did so because it was convenient, right? And just because it was convenient, it might have even achieved the same end goal, it was wrong, right? And I think about the same thing with this whole armor concept, right? Maybe I leave the helmet back at home. Maybe I don't equip my sword. Maybe I don't wear the belt. And the day you choose not to do that is the day the devil strikes, right? And, I think about that, right? The days I'm really bought in, the days I'm praying, the days I'm reading my Bible, the days I'm participating at church, the days it's front of mind are the days I'm not even tempted. The days where the devil doesn't even want to attack because he knows he won't win. But then the days when, my willpower is low, the days there's a lot of stress, the days I don't pray, the days I don't crack open my Bible, the days I'm not thinking in this sort of way I'm thinking now, those are the days when the devil gets to me, and the devil, he sometimes wins, right? Those are the days when, right at that moment, right when I think I'm winning, those images pop up. You got to protect your eyes, man. Those images pop up, and they know, right? They're so sexualized, and it could be an ad, it could be social media, whatever it might be, right? And I always find it fascinating at those moments when I know I'm not fully equipped with the armor of God. That's when I get, attacked. And I think it's interesting, right? He talks about these flaming darts, right? When you're wearing the armor, the flaming darts hit you and they just ping right off, right? If you're wearing a metal plate, a dart's not going to impact you, right? A dart's not going to affect you. But if you're just flesh and blood, like, my skin, that's going to penetrate. It's going to hit, and it's on fire, right? That's going to hurt, and that's going to hit you. And, these darts are the sins, right? Sexual immorality, covetous, which I just learned is jealousy for what others have. So jealousy, envy, greed, adultery, putting things above God. These are the things that this armor is protecting you from. So I guess I'm making this video really just to kind of wrestle with my own thoughts on Ephesians and get some feedback maybe down below in the comments when we start a conversation. And is there times when, you're not wearing the whole armor of God, right? Are you taking off bits and pieces of the armor because it helps you move quicker through life? It helps you, not be as stressed or as burdened, right? And I think of the armor as a byproduct of the word. And when you're not reading the word, how can you equip the armor, right? The word is the instructions on how to equip this armor. And when you're not reading the instructions, you're not going to know how to wear the armor. So, yeah, I'm really not super well versed in the Bible. I wouldn't consider myself an evangelist. Not a pastor. I'm not a teacher. I'm just someone trying to better understand the word and deepen my understanding of God and grow closer to him and build a relationship with him. And in doing so, I'm just trying to, again, read the word and gain a better understanding and draw comparisons to what I see here in the world and maybe enlighten my own understanding and hopefully maybe bring a little bit of enlightenment to someone else. So if that is the case, I'm really happy to know that. And yeah, so hope you all have an amazing, blessed day. It's really late here. So like I said, I'm just working through, and that thought came to me and I wanted to make this video. So thank you so much for watching. Maybe we'll reconvene and talk.